Hello, you're listening to a We Will Fix It podcast short with Colin Thomas and myself, James Pikeway.
Keeping ants and cockroaches and stuff. Ants and roaches.
Yes.
Those are, and I'm not saying that people have, there's a roach infestation, but we do have sewage systems, and the way the sewage systems work, it is possible now and again for one of these critters that lives in those areas, and I know this because I pull up the grates every now and then, and it's like, whoa, what is living in there?
Yeah.
And they can come through the trap.
They can. And how that happens is, now and again in Dubai, as you well know, we get, I call it a pressure change, but in effect, it's just like a surge of wind that comes through.
Had one yesterday. Whoa.
Yeah. And when it does, it can blow out toilets, it can blow out U-bends, and at that point, they can all get into your property. There's no two ways about it. If you're leaving a property on its own, that's just a risk you take. There's no way around it. However, if you have somebody who's coming in, assuming that you've got somebody coming in, you wouldn't be isolating the water in the same way. It would be somebody who knows how to turn the water back on, and a few easy instructions. And it's not difficult. It really isn't. But in that situation, first thing that I would do is I would start all of the taps, and literally all you need is 10 seconds of tap, and I would flush every toilet. And do that as a standard, as part of their and you can do that in 10 minutes. I mean, I can do our place in 10 minutes, which is just
get the water flowing, get it all going.
Absolutely. And what you're doing is actually filling up those U-bends again to make sure that as of that point, you have the required water to stop the U-bends in whichever format they are from being an issue.
I always fire a little piff-paff around the drain areas when I'm not there, inside where the water goes.
Well, the additional is, if you know that you've got a history of ants or whatever else, Megagel. Never come.
Yeah, Megagel's a great one.
Yeah, I know. Well, Lulu supply it generally.
Oh, okay.
The big suppliers. It's available in other places, but they tend to come in and out of stock a little bit. So I found that Lulu is kind of the most reliable for that. Still struggle to get it online, which is bizarre. Don't know why, but the main suppliers, you seem to struggle with it there. But I've always found it in Lulu. But for some reason, it might be one of those where there's a whole load of competing brands that are perfectly adequate, but it's not something I want to really risk. And luckily, I've never been in a place where it's been such a major issue that one application of Megagel hasn't solved it permanently, which is kind of quite a positive thing for the product, isn't it?
I usually do a sweep around the outside just with an insecticide, just, sills and things. Doesn't usually rain too much, so it sort of, gets to the nooks and crannies and just creates a little bit of a barrier.
Nice.
I kind of think of, when you've been to, Indonesia or places like that, and, every night, every morning, they're, you can't get rid of the bugs.
Yeah, of course.
They're natural. But, on the sills, just create a little barrier. So
great idea.
It was a good idea.
Yeah, without a doubt. Works well.
Yeah.